Why is New York City called the Big Apple? New York City has been called many things: the Great American Melting Pot, Gotham, the city that never sleeps, but its most famous nickname is the Big Apple. So just where did this now ubiquitous moniker originate? Over the years there have been, quite a few theories about how New York City came to be called the Big Apple. Some folks say it comes from the former well-to-do families who ended up selling apples on the city's streets just to make ends meet during the Great Depression. Another story suggests the term comes from a famous 19th century brothel madam named Eve, whose girls were, kind of cheekily, referred to as her Big Apples. But actually, the nickname springs from a catchphrase used in the 1920s by the Morning Telegraph sports writer John J. Fitzgerald in his horse racing column, Around the Big Apple. Starting on February 18, 1924, he began every column with the header "The Big Apple," the dream of every lad that ever threw a leg over a thoroughbred and the goal of all horsemen. There's only one Big Apple. That's New York. At the time, the jockeys and trainers of smaller horses were said to want to make a Big Apple, which was their term for the big money prizes at larger races in and around New York City. Fitzgerald reportedly first heard the Big Apple used to describe New York's racetracks by two African-American stable hands at the famed New Orleans Fairgrounds, as he explained in his inaugural Around the Big Apple column. Two dusky stable hands were leading a pair of thoroughbreds around the cooling rings of adjoining stables at the fairgrounds in New Orleans and engaging in desultory conversation. "Where y'all going from here?" queried one. "From here we're heading for the Big Apple," proudly replied the other. "Well, you'd better fatten up them skinners or all you'll get from the apple will be the core," was the quick rejoinder. Fitzgerald nabbed the colloquialism for his column, where it quickly took off. Once the term entered the vocabularies of society up north, its popularity slowly spread outside of the horse racing context, and, everything from nightclubs in Harlem to hit songs and dances about the city were named after the Big Apple. Most notably, New York jazz musicians in the 1930s, who had a habit of using the nickname to reference their hometown in their songs, helped the nickname spread beyond the Northeast. Throughout the mid-20th century, it remained New York City's nickname until it was officially adopted by the city in the 1970s. The New York Convention and Visitors Bureau hoped that using the moniker would brighten the image of an economically downtrodden and crime-ridden city in decline and revive the tourist economy. In 1997, to give Fitzgerald his, somewhat unjust due, then-Mayor Rudy Giuliani signed legislation naming the corner where Fitzgerald and his family lived at West 54th Street and Broadway between 1934 and 1963 Big Apple Corner.